the experiences of your great grandmother is affecting you, right? So the experiences of the trauma and the brutality of our ancestors, right, are affecting our sisters today.
Warm welcome to you and to all who have joined us this wonderful Super Thursday. It's always a privilege for me. I try my best in this life that the Father has given to us to not engage in anything I don't enjoy doing. Okay. So if I don't enjoy it and foresee that I'm going to be able to extract tremendous benefit, I don't engage. So if you see me here every Thursday with the amount of choice that I have on how I could be spending my evening, trust me, it's the place to be. You see Brother Hakeem here? No, man, if he's here, I'm in the right place at the right time with the right people. So I'm seeing some wonderful faces. Sister Kiki, so good to see you. I'm so glad you made it. So it's always a blessing for when we are the recipients of a invitation, and it's always good. And as I said, I know my sister is this is her area. And for those of you who are passionate about your health and your well-being, I want to just add a dimension, because our health and our well-being really starts to deteriorate if we're not spiritually connected to the source of our origin and the source of our life. So we'll be dealing with today mental, spiritual, psychological, and we will touch on obviously what we can do to help to correct physical ailments. But we could be dealing with physical ailments all day and all week and all year long. But if you don't correct the spiritual and the psychological, then the physical ailments will always reoccur. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So my brother, my priest, Kailash, he is a holistic healer. He deals with every part of the human being as a whole: mental, spiritual, psychological, and obviously physical. And it's always a pleasure. I mean, I was in St. Lucia, and I was in my hotel room, and I was flicking the channels. You channel surf, you have a few moments generally to catch up on the news, right? And I saw my brother come on the television in St. Lucia. So I stopped and turned up the dial. And when I heard what my brother was saying, I said, man, I didn't know that we had a man like this in St. Lucia, because, I usually go there, beach, and just trying to chill, you understand, to come back to the grind in the UK. But when I heard my brother, I said, man, I have to try and find my brother before I leave the country. And I went to one of his eateries, if you will, for lack of a better word, one of his eateries. And I went to get some food, and lo and behold, if the creator organized it so that as I went into the eatery, our brother was reasoning with one of the brothers inside the eatery. And he explained to me, he generally he doesn't frequent that particular place on a regular basis because he's all over the country. So for me to jump in a taxi, go to his eatery, and he just happened to have been there, it was by divine order. And it was as if we have known each other, which we have from many lives. Okay, this is not the first meeting, because the spirit is so congruent. So it gives me pleasure, and it's always a privilege and an honor to share space and time with our wonderful priest Kailash. who's joining us from St. Lucia. So if you are anxious to hear your brother, your priest, please take your device off of mute and welcome him with a London, US, European reception. So show your love to our brother as he comes forth and comes off mute to join us. Welcome.
Welcome,
Welcome, brother.
Welcome.
God bless you, brother.
Brother.
Welcome, brother. Welcome.
Kailash in the
Thank
house.
you.
Bienvenue, Maître Kailash. Enchanté.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm from England, London. Welcome.
Give thanks.
Yes, man. From Smedic, West Midlands. Welcome.
Give thanks.
So, dear brother, dear priest, please, the audience are waiting for your guidance, waiting for your inspiration. So, if everybody can if you can put your devices on mute, please, our brother will start to address us from this point. Please, sir.
Yes, Honourable, give thanks. Can you hear me clearly?
We can, very clearly.
All right, give thanks. Definitely. I give thanks for life and a mighty life given. Again, I give thanks for this divine opportunity to share that space. You know, even if we call it meta space or that kind of social kind of media space,
right,
or that space that's not really, you know, that I and I, you know, that fleshy space, but a space that is just can still be held sacred, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, we make whatever we have what it is still, you know. So I give thanks for the invitation again to be with you, and I pray that the Creator continue, you know, blessing and keeping you, you know, and your people, and you know that your life may be long and prosperous.
Thank you.
And you may bless, you know, all the I and them with, you know, longevity and I would say excessive amount of wealth, that as your cup overflow, I could put mine and get a little bit of whatever that you have to offer. You know, so today I just wanted to just go briefly, you know, into just reminding you who I am. I am Right Honourable Priest Kailash K. Leons. I am the chairman of the Great Physician International, also co-creator of Mount Kailash Rejuvenation Center, co-founder of the Ubuntu Movement Incorporated, which is an NGO that is basically actively doing some active work in St. Lucia in what you call in violence interruption. We also have a series of plant-based restaurants, the Food of Seven, the Green Zen in Rodney Bay. I don't think brother Hakim Mohammed, when you were in St. I don't think that branch was open up yet in Rodney, but we do have a branch in up the north now.
Right.
The Green Zen, you know. So definitely our work for the world has actually brought us to the point whereby we have met a lot of wonderful people, and it was indeed an honor and a privilege that day that we actually met. And I know that we have spoken about plenty of things, and I know that definitely in the as you say, the right time, but you know, as in Allah's time, you know, definitely everything is going to manifest smoothly. I represent myself first and foremost. I am a Rastafari, specifically of the Bobo Shanti order of the Melchizedek priesthood. I'm a leading priest of that order. I'm also did some study medical school in Cuba, but graduated from the American University of Antigua College of Medicine, which is a conventional medical school, in 2005. I also did herbal medicine, you know. We also established the Mount Kailash School of Esoteric Herbal Medicine, you know, and we have also trademarked the term herbal physician. So in the UK specifically, you know, that term herbal physician is a term that we have actually trademarked, because we don't really believe like the herbalist. We don't use like herbalist, you know, probably say the herbal most, but not the herbalist. You know, so we say a herbal physician because we don't only incorporate just the herbs, you know, we incorporate the whole aspect of what a physician truly supposed to be. ancient time, from Imhotep time in Kemet, all the way down, to our brothers and sisters in South Africa. I was doing a course online with a university in Israel, and it was basically a course dealing with herbal medicine, utilizing herbs in the treatment of cancer. And while I was just there sitting and just listening to the professors from Italy, professors from the United States, from all these big prestigious universities, and they are speaking of the root of herbal medicine. And then you hear of Ayurvedic medicine, you hear of Chinese medicine, and you hear of Mesopotamia, that's in Iraq and these places there that they would call it, but there was that general, I would say, ignoring of the whole of Lower Africa, from the only place that they mentioned was actually herbal medicine in Kemet, so there was nothing about Ghana, there was nothing about Nigeria, nothing about, Senegal, Ethiopia, Yemen, none of these countries there at all, South Africa. It was just that herbal medicine was a medicine that was actually, owned more by the people of I would say Asian descent, and we as African people, and even as people in the Caribbean, there was no mention of the rich tradition of herbal healing that we have as a people. And this is no one's fault but our fault, because we have made a very poor job in actually documenting and even holding what our ancestors has passed on to us sacred. I remember growing up, and then people have a child having tonsillitis. Tonsillitis is basically an inflammation of the tonsils. And what would happen is that the tonsils, to the back of the throat would be crooked, and the wit and the wise mind, of our brothers and our elders, and our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, was that they would have taken a spoon and press it down on the back of the tongue and straighten the tonsils, and go to the center of the head and draw out some hair and tie a string to the center of the head, and then the tonsils would actually remain straight. And these are things that I witnessed. I also witnessed an auntie of mine removing warts, and warts are caused by a viral infection, by just saying a prayer, and rubbing out some saliva and mumble a prayer in her mouth, and then passing a coin on it, and then just throwing it to her back, and after probably 5 or 7 times, that wart would be gone. So I actually saw these things. I saw our elders going to trees and that don't bear fruit, and knocking down a nail or putting a stone between 2 branches, and after probably next bearing season, the tree actually begins to bear. So the level of medicine that we have, the level of healing that we have to offer ourselves first, is extraordinary. But this could only be accessible to us if we actually embrace the path, or the path of our ancestors, and also embrace the level of knowledge that they have actually shared with us. So I was blessed enough to actually be not raised, because raised is like when they burn something down, but I was actually brought up. I was actually inducted within the whole craft of herbal medicine, primarily as a youth, by my grandmother, because I actually was brought up into this space by my grandmother. So I was blessed, I am blessed, to have actually learned some of these sciences. And thus, when I went into medical school, it was just like bringing these things together, and actually creating a system of healing that is actually conducive to my people. Because in going to these medical schools, you have all type of things, and then there is nothing at all that deals specifically with the healing of our people. I'm talking about people of African ascendants. I'm talking about people that look like I, and look like the eye, and look like the eye. So there was nothing at all like that. So even many of the drugs that they actually recommended for high blood pressure, for diabetes, most of these things, when we looked at them and we saw that most of these things, that their level of efficacy, meaning that how effective they were in treating these conditions, were not appropriate for us as a people. Yet still, even, most of these drugs were just prescribed, randomly within the Caribbean region. So this was my basic motivation to look into what my grandmother taught me, look into exactly what I studied at medical school, all the anatomy and physiology and the pathophysiology and the histology, and just take that time that to just say, well, what can I contribute with the knowledge that I have gained from all my studies to actually uplift my people. So that is why we established the Mount Kailash Rejuvenation Center, which actually broke down the man in not just only the different levels that Brother Hakim spoke of, but also gave the man his 7 levels of existence, meaning that his physical self, his ethereal self, his ether, which is his vibrational self, his emotional self, because as man, you have your effort, your energy, yet still you have your emotions. Your emotions are not tangible. You cannot touch it, you cannot feel it, you cannot weigh it. Yet still your emotions are actually transcribed from that outer space to your physical structure via your nervous system. Then you still have your soul self. So you have your physical self, you have your emotional self, you have your effort, which is your energy field. Yet you have your soul, you have your spirit, like your spiritual injection, as we're speaking of. Then you have your astral self, because we are stars that shine the light in this dark world of sin. So you have your representation of yourself in the heavens, which is your astral self, and yet still you have your God self, because we are all gods and the children of the Most High. We are creators, we are co-creators in this space, and we believe that if heaven has to be created, heaven definitely has to be created by us for ourselves. So we don't believe in the concept of dying to go into heaven. We believe, well, if you're going to walk on streets of gold, you'd have to build these streets of gold yourself. So definitely, going through all these realms was just something that, where I could have taken all my knowledge from medical school, all the cadavers we had to cut, and as a priest, I was not able to actually come face to face with cadavers, but that was a sacrifice, an investment I had to make for my people. So after all the cadavers and all these different studies that we went through, we said, yes, let us create this system of medicine that could actually take our people to this level of existence that they actually need to get. So basically, I'm thankful, to be here, and we are in a space now whereby, all the major hospitals in the world are beginning to practice what we call integrative medicine, and even when we were listening in that same course I was just doing with that university, they were talking about traditional medicine was like, okay, like your traditional herbal medicine. Then they called it alternative medicine, right? And then they called it complementary medicine, and now they call it integrative medicine.
Mm.
So the stone that the builder refused have come to be the head cornerstone, whereby they have to incorporate nutrition, they have to incorporate herbs, they have to incorporate spirit, they have to incorporate all these aspects in the whole realms of healing. So give thanks again for having me, my beloved brother, and I pray that I'll be able to add some value, to your audience today.
To say the least. We thank you, dear brother, for that wonderful opening and blessing us to really appreciate that we are in the company of each other's greatness. And based upon since the last time that I've been blessed and privileged to be in your company, I know you have been doing tremendous global work. And tell me what your thoughts are on the challenges that we as a people are now starting to face. Like, what are some of the conditions that you have seen, the levels of deterioration and the new challenges or more acute challenges that you have seen develop in our community in the last year or so, 18 months?
Well, basically, everything is just going up,
Yeah.
we were already, ranking number one in infertility, but that's going up, so
Right.
you have an increased incidence in fibroids, and polycystic ovarian syndrome that makes our woman, barren, and then you have with the men, prostate cancer is just skyrocketing. Everyone is just complaining about prostatic problems, and also the inability even to actually reproduce. So you have these two conditions, anything when it comes to hormones in our sisters, from endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, these things, they are skyrocketing. And because it is estrogen based, incidentally, you have an increase in diabetes. Why? Because estrogen, estrogen levels, the female hormone, basically is the main culprit for PCOS. It is basically a condition that whereby the ovaries of the woman, which is as a synonymous or corresponds to the testicles of the man. So the ovaries of the woman is where the ovum is actually produced and released every 14 days within a 28-day cycle. And that egg, when released, is what gets fertilized by the sperm of the man to actually bring forth a child. So when you overstand that because of the bombardment of the ovaries with an excessive amount of estrogen and progesterone, you have multiple cysts actually forming within that. And a cyst basically is what you would call a fluid filled bag, and these multiple cysts will be within the ovaries and produce even more progesterone and making that woman feel like she's pregnant when she's not, and making her barren. So because these hormones also affect the pancreas and cause the pancreas to produce an excessive amount of insulin that leads to insulin resistance, then you have an upsurge in diabetes also, which is a metabolic condition. And because estrogen also affects the glands of the breast, then you have an increase in what you call glandular carcinoma of the breast among our sisters. And our brothers specifically, you have lots of men just getting strokes, which is basically cardiovascular disease, and then lots of men just with prostatic problems, So we were in Jamaica, and I mean, it's horrible, just horrible, and a brethren of mine, brought me over to take care of his father, because, of diabetes, and they don't want to amputate his legs. So countries like Barbados, you have like an amputation probably every hour, every couple of minutes. I think they would have amputations. I mean, so St. Lucia was real bad. That's why you used to see me on TV, because we actually said about a decade in 2007, 2006, St. Lucia was number one in the world with diabetes. And so when I left medical school 2005, I had an office in Antigua. I closed down in 2006 and came down to St. Lucia and made a public announcement that within a decade, the World Health Organization said, well, within a decade, within 10 years, there's going to be a 50% increase, and St. Lucia was already number one in the world. So what we did an aggressive television campaign, for almost for like a decade. We had inter-secondary school plant-based cooking competitions. We had cooking programs. We had TV programs, and all these things were things we paid. So we had to pay sometimes $8,000 a month just to be on TV to tell people to eat healthy.
Right.
So nobody would be sponsoring these type of programs. So we've witnessed that. Even if you go on the World Health Organization, website, and you search or you look for countries that are number one in the world with diabetes, St. Lucia is not in the top 30. So I mean, it is up to us when we actually identify these problems that we say, okay, so what solutions we could actually bring towards eradicating the condition that our people are plagued with, because these diseases are terrible, man. So as a healer, we are just an intermediary. We just a channel, that helps people to access source, because the healing process is something that you're supposed to take charge of. Because I will just enlighten you and show you the path and hold your hand to an extent and then have to let go for you to heal yourself. So it is critical that we as a people begin just to embrace the fullness of what our ancestors had taught us and understand that if we don't take some affirmative stance, within a short period of time, most of our men would be castrated, and most of our women would the breasts would be chopped off, which was the same thing that was done to us as a people during slavery. So it is just being repeated in a more scientific manner. So it is critical just for us just to understand the root cause of these conditions and just take charge, So we don't really invest in our wellness. We don't invest in R&D, research and development. We won't say, well, let us spend $1 million into developing medicines for ourselves. Let's spend 5 years in doing some research and then create something revolutionary, novel to actually combat any type of disease. And the other people in the world are doing that. So it is not for us to blame anyone but ourselves.
Right.
For that lackadaisical attitude and that cheap attitude to actually invest and spend money in ourselves. Give thanks.
Give thanks. And I was flabbergasted last week, Honourable Priest, when a representative from Barbados shared with us that the birth rate in Barbados was dwindling as opposed to increasing, because generally, the birth rate in the Caribbean is generally always on an upward trajectory. But when he said to us that the birth rate was coming down, how is all of these illnesses and scourges really that we're suffering from, how much of this is based upon environment and the lack of quality of thought processes that we are engaging in?
Well, give thanks. I mean, definitely we must understand that 70% of disease is caused by your thoughts, by your emotional self, by the intangible. So remember that life is made up of tangible and intangible, things that you could touch and things that you just cannot touch, things you could wear, you could smell, you could see. But there are also the intangible things that these are the things that you cannot see, but yet still they are influencing you.
Yeah.
So many of our people are just traumatized. Many of our sisters, I would say up 9 out of 10 of our sisters have been abused. So if you're sitting in a room with 10 women, women, right? Trust me, my brother, at least 9 out of them have been abused. So when these sisters then sit down and they think about their abuse, when they sit down and think about, okay, like many women will say, well, Chris, because we are known for fertility, so people don't even buy some of our products because they're afraid that they might get pregnant. Well, I don't get pregnant, so I won't drink that. But I'm very serious,
Yeah.
So many people come to us with fertility issues, and yet still we have to tell the sisters, do you really want to get pregnant? Do you really want to have a child?
Right.
But they don't want to have a child because many of these sisters there themselves have been abused. And because they have been abused now, they've been molested, or they've been raped, or somebody, used to always call them ugly, or somebody always used to, several levels of abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, right? So these sisters there, they don't want to bring no child into the world,
right?
So even if they come in with their husbands, right? After about 15 minutes, they themselves start to tear up and break down about their own trauma and admit that they have fears of even bringing a child into the world. So many of the issues that we actually have to understand is that when a woman is in that state of being, right, your emotional state of sadness, your emotional state of anger, the emotional state of regret, right, that emotional state is also represented by hormones, right? The stress hormone called cortisol, and the other hormone called norepinephrine, or what they call adrenaline. So all these things are things that actually put our sisters on that curve of developing breast cancer, fibroids, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and the whole realms of infertility. And if we go back 400 to 500 years ago, then you would remember the traumas that our sisters went through in the whole aspect of the chattel slavery. So when you actually understand that the whole realms of epigenetics, because now it's a science, epigenetics is a science. So they'll tell you, well, the experiences of your great grandmother is affecting you, right? So the experiences of the trauma and the brutality of our ancestors, right, are affecting our sisters today, whereby you understand that during the times of slavery, the master would take the woman and put her on a side and take the father and the son and whip the father, right, or castrate the father, and make the woman have that level of fear that she could raise her sons to be domicile, to be calm. Listen to master, listen to master, and just so that she herself won't witness the brutality, right? So it is critical that even my own personal experience, right? My mother only gave me my first hug when I was 40 or 40 something, and I'm 46. So it wasn't that my mother never loved me. She was afraid through the traumas that she actually have been relieving from generation to generation, just to express love to her son, just because of the fear of that loss that she don't want. So I got my first hug at 40 something. You can imagine that?
Yes.
Right? So many of our people are traumatized. So when you say, how does thought affect what we're going through as a people, my beloved, it's over 70% of the reason why many of the things that we are going through right now today is just because of the thoughts that we have. That is why we teach people, control your thoughts, scan your mind, see how positive your thoughts are. Ensure that you have at least 80% positive thoughts and 20% negative thoughts, because I mean, if you don't have no negative, then you have no power. Negative and positive, you must think something. It's not like you're gonna think of good things all the time. I mean, there's a polarity, So at the end of the day, it is critical that we address these conditions. If, my beloved brother Hakim, if it is that we have to still be discussing, I see somebody with a comment about about the food, and now is not the time about eat and drink, that's so long ago. If we still have to be addressing GMOs and eat healthy, right? And then we are not in that stage of positive thinking and uplift thinking, right? You are wasting your time. You're gone. Because that time is like gone. We are in remember, in time of AI and a time of the time of artificial intelligence. Right? So it is not just the time of eating and drinking. Remember, even the Bible say, right? If you think it, you've seen already in the times that we are. So at the end of the day, beloved, it is critical that intrinsic love for self, and forgiving of self, and then just ensuring that you understand that you have full control of your thoughts. You have full control of whether you are angry or whether you are happy or whether you are sad, or whatever emotion that you actually allow to come within your physical structure that could actually build you or destroy you. So it is critical that we actually understand that.
I love it. And you reminded me about something I was discussing with some of our men on Monday, because sometimes we always want to bring the conversation to the most rudimentary of engagements. And as you just said so beautifully, in regards to still teaching someone what they should buy in a supermarket and what they shouldn't buy, and they claim to know how to read, is way too rudimentary for the gravitas of the problem that we're dealing with today.
In this time we cannot have a stressing. In this time we should all be investing. Getting knowledge should never be rejected. Every week, did you get the message? Get your ticket today, it don't take a second. Every Thursday get 7. It's time to make this earth into heaven. So need to worry, there's a blessing. No need for second guessing, it's a spiritual injection. It's a spiritual.
Do you enjoy our content? Well, make sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you won't miss an episode.